This 911 Strong podcast is brought to you by our partners at the Police Credit Union of California.
As a financial institution founded by law enforcement for law enforcement and their families over 65 years ago, they have the experience and understanding to help you with all your financial needs,
including exclusive products designed specifically for law enforcement professionals. To become a member today, visit thepolicecu.org. That's the police, the letter C, and the letter U.org.
Or call 800-222-1391 and tell them you heard about them from the 911 Strong podcast.
Station to all units.
Prepare to copy.
You're listening to the 911 Strong podcast.
Don't act like I never told you.
With Aram and Kristen, bringing you stimulating discussion.
No, I like the sound of that.
An entertaining conversation.
And now, here's Kristen and Aram.
Hey friends, welcome back to the 911 Strong podcast. I am Aram Choe, and not with me today is my co-host, dispatcher Kristen, America's favorite dispatcher, Kristen Hodeggy. Well, as perfect timing, I guess, this episode we were going to talk about some of the pitfalls of the job and how, we're not a 9 to 5 weekends and holidays off type job. Eventually you can get there. And wouldn't you know it, Kristen got held up at work today. She had to work past a couple hours past her normal shift, and we were on a tight recording schedule. So as they say in show business, the show must go on. So I wanted to start this episode and talk to you about a personal message I got on my 911 Strong Instagram. This is from a follower of mine that said, well, I'll just read it verbatim. It says, "Hi, sir. Sorry to bother you, but I'm currently ending phase 2 of field training this week with my department, and I'm totally second guessing this career. I love it, but being 33 with a wife and 3 kids, ages 11, 7, and 3, it's so hard doing the job and trying to be a family man. Just like everything in life, some things aren't meant for everyone, and I'm still trying to figure that out. Is the work worth the missing of family and trips, especially at those ages?" Well, I totally get where this young officer is coming from. I'm assuming he's young. I didn't actually ask his age, but I'm right there. I'm 23 years into my career, and I have 4 children. My oldest is 17. Then I have a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So I totally get that. But you know what? When I started this family, I was already a cop. I had been a cop since I was the age of 22 or 23. And my wife married me knowing I was a cop. So we both knew what we were getting into. And we both made a conscious decision that my wife, who was working already or had been working, was going to quit her job. Because I grew up with both my parents working. They were small business owners. They were always gone out of the house before I left for school. And then they'd be home way later than most parents do. So I didn't want that for my kids. I raised myself. I learned how to do things at a certain age that probably most kids my age at the time probably shouldn't have learned how to do. But that's who I am. It made, I had to go through those things to know I didn't want that for my kids. And my wife, she grew up homeschooled. She grew up one of 7 kids. She was the second oldest. So she had a lot of experience raising her siblings. And, to her credit, she knew one day she wanted to be a housewife and a mom. So those are the qualities I was looking for in a spouse. And that's when, it worked out for us. And it's fast forward to 2022. It may not be the most popular position to be in, to have a stay-at-home wife, but it's me. It's what I wanted, right? It's exactly the life I envisioned for my kids, to always have a parent home. And I know some of you are thinking, well, Dad, you have to be there too. I get that. And throughout my entire career, I've had positions where I had weekends and holidays off, but I've also had those instances where I work 3-4 days a week, and I've got those other 3 days off. To be quite honest, I have more days off than the average worker, right? Most people only have a 2-day weekend. And throughout my entire career, I've had either 3 days or 4 days off. And the thing is, with homeschooling our kids, we're a lot more flexible than kids that are tied down to a traditional school schedule. So even though I had seniority, I made it a point when I worked in patrol to work the weekend shifts. I did that so that my kids and my family and I could do things as a family at places that had smaller crowds, because during the week it was just a smaller crowd, and we enjoyed those things. We, if you if you followed me on social media, you know the tremendous amount of camping trips we go to. As a matter of fact, we moved up to the desert for that reason, so that we can ride our dirt bikes and quads and side by sides right out of our backyard. These are all conscious, deliberate decisions that we'd made as a family. So I hear this. I hear what this young man is saying. I feel like he was looking personally. I feel like he was looking for a reason from me. I don't know why from me, but maybe he values what I have to say. But I felt like he was looking for a reason to make a decision that he already knew. Personally, I feel like he's already quit. In my mind, I feel like he's already quit the job. He's looking for an excuse to leave the job, and he's trying to mask that behind the guise of trying to be a better father for his kids. And the thing is this: I don't care what profession you're in, you're going to give whatever effort you are as a salesman or an accountant or a businessman as you are in law enforcement. If it's in your personality to be a go-getter, you're going to be a go-getter. You're going to be a go-getter in law enforcement. You're going to be a go-getter as a dog walker. I don't care what you are. That's who your personality is. Now, if your personality is to be the type of guy that clocks in at 9 and checks out at 5, and you do average work, that's respectable. I mean, no one's gonna you're doing average work. And your priority is to be with your family. I get that. That's fine. For me, I'm in a little different situation. I'm the breadwinner in my family. My family depends on me to make as much money as I can, or I shouldn't say that. They depend on me to put our family in a comfortable situation, right? My daughter, two of my daughters, both my daughters do gymnastics. And for any of you parents out there that have competitive gymnastics kids, you know how tremendously expensive it is. I'd be lying if I said it was a car payment, because it's more than a car payment. It's a car payment with insurance, and then you double down with the traveling. My oldest daughter, she is a USAG and AAU competitive gymnast, so we travel to a lot of states. So yeah, travel, and we all know what gas costs, flights cost, hotels. So I don't want to deprive my kids from what they want to do. So with that said, they rely on me to be motivated at work. Would they be just as happy with me as a husband and a father if I was patrol officer Aram Choe for the rest of my career? Absolutely. But it's never been my personality. I've always been a go-getter. I've always had aspirations to continually improve in everything I do. And I'm a detective sergeant right now, and I don't want to be a detective sergeant forever. I've done it for a couple of years now, and I think I've got a couple more years under my belt before I start getting bored and wanting to move up to the next thing. And for me, the next thing is lieutenant. I'd love to be in command of a watch, maybe be in command of a unit, like go back to detectives and command that unit. I don't know. But luckily for my family, my retirement is set so that I get paid 90% of my highest paid year, highest salaried year. So I want my salary to increase so that when I get to that retirement age, my wife and I don't have to worry about living so much on a fixed budget as my salary grows. So, we make these sacrifices now so that we can reap the benefits later. And if I could sit down with this young man, and I can't give this man an answer. I gave him an answer via message, but like I said, it came with the guys that I felt like he already kind of quit. Um, I told him that's his decision to make, and he needs to do some soul searching. For me, that wouldn't have ever been a question. If I thought about quitting the job, it would be because it was a detriment to my family in another way, like it was dangerous to them. But um, it's all my family's ever known. They knew what they were getting into, even though my kids were born into it. They know I'm a cop. They're used to I've been a detective for a long time before this. This last deployment, they knew what it was like for me to be on call and have to leave the house in the middle of the night. They know what it's like for me to get calls at all hours of the day. And then they realize that that's temporary too. They know that when I'm in patrol, I'm home a lot more. You know, at my current department, I work 3 days a week if I'm in patrol. That means I have 4 days to be at home. That means a lot more projects get done, a lot more trips happen. And my wife actually joked to me this last rotation into detectives. She said, all right, I'm going to have to buckle down and mentally focus because the last time I was in detectives was one of the worst times in our marriage. It really was. It was really trying because I carry a lot of responsibility in as a detective. In patrol, for instance, you handle your calls and then you're done at the end of the day, right? You don't have to worry about them. Well, as a detective, you're constantly, and a lot of you detectives listening, or people who have ever been detectives listening, can relate to this. When you close your eyes at night, you're thinking about some of the cases, right? Especially when you're a new detective. Um, how you can, what angle you can use to do this or to solve this case. And then if you're like me, who works for a very busy agency, you're juggling 200 plus cases, right? And I know you triage them, but those priority ones, those handful of priority ones, you're trying to get justice for the families. So yeah, there's a lot of stress, and that's a totally different episode of how to manage that stress. But for me, I still haven't mastered that. So yeah, it's a trying time. As a matter of fact, my wife and I had a big argument a couple Sundays ago, and my job was part of the topic. So, but luckily, I can leave detectives at any time, and we made up, and she understands that I have to do this in order to continually promote, and she's supportive of me promoting. And I think that's the main thing. Now that I'm kind of talking about this out loud, I bet you this guy who messaged me is probably not getting the support he needs from his family, support system. Um, or he's like my first hunch was he's probably not, his heart isn't in the job anymore. And I see that with a lot of younger officers now who look at this insurmountable mountain of years they have to do. I've done 23 years. I could do another 10 more. But I'm on the downhill slide, right? I don't know what my attitude would be today if I started my career in 2022 and know that I have to work, 30 plus years to get a retirement. But for me, I've made wise investments in my life. I own some real estate. Um, I got a really good deal on my house, a lot of sweat equity in this house. And or if you follow me on social media, we bought another house on the lake, and my wife and I saved about $30,000 worth of work because we did a lot of work ourselves. That's that type of sweat equity and investments we've made to set ourselves up later. So it'd be foolish for me to quit now unless some better opportunity came. And I can't think of a lot of better opportunity than a police pension, especially in California. We they do take care of us in terms of pensions. So yeah, I want to share with you what I responded. Um, let me say, let's see. I said family is important. I've been able to take time off when I needed to. Sure. Do I miss holidays? Absolutely. But we celebrated them on the closest day off. Uh, Eventually, you'll get some seniority, and those weekends and holidays will come soon enough. If you're considering leaving the job, it means you have options. Consider yourself a blessed man. Not many have that option, and that's very true. Um, I have a fallback. If I left this job, I currently teach part time at a university that has given me and my family just a tremendous blessing to be able to teach there. And if I ever left law enforcement, sure, I could go full time and teach over there. So it sounds like this man has some options as well. I don't think that the other option would be as beneficial to my family as this one. I think the opportunities for me and what I've done in my career are going to be lead to better opportunities for this family. But I'm also going to be lying if I say that if you're the type of person that expects holidays off, um, then yeah, you're going to be sorely disappointed because in this job, um, December 25th is Christmas, absolutely, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be spending that time with your family. It means you might be having Christmas dinner at an IHOP. I've done that a couple of times, sitting across from a partner, having our IHOP dinner together. That's just what it is. And would I like to be home for every holiday? Yeah, that's just luxury we don't have. But we have other luxuries in this job. To be honest with you, I love the fact that I can carry weapons. I love the fact that I make an impact in the community that I work at. That I can mentor younger officers. We just sworn 5 officers that just graduated the academy, and I look forward to when they do their rotation through our detective bureau, so I can sit with them and explain to them what we do. I love that. So I mean, yeah, I guess it could be viewed as selfish, but it's not. I mean, we all have our own wants and desires and our personal things, and I don't think it takes away from my family because what I do creates a direct benefit to my family. The better I do at work, the better positioned I am to secure, um, you know, those things my family rely on me for: benefits, pay, family activities, and working my way to eventually get to an admin position, maybe where I get weekends and holidays off. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about some of the things you can expect in this career, besides missing holidays. You're gonna have to make some tough decisions. Um, I remember when my daughter was starting. Well, let's talk about this actually. So, if you're not aware, if you're not from the west side of this nation, we have a relay race called Baker to Vegas. It's a 120-mile relay race from Baker, California to Las Vegas, and this has been going on for well over 2 decades. It's just a race, and law enforcement agencies from all over the world come, and it's a relay race, right? 20 officers for 20 legs, and each department competes to get the Challenge Cup. Um, I ran in the past for many years. I was part of some pretty successful teams, and the captain of the team asked me to run this upcoming year in 2023. And as much as I want to be accommodating to the team, as much as I want to do it for myself as well, because when you train for Baker to Vegas, you're running a lot more, and you're going to burn some calories, and that's going to help my jujitsu. Um, I The dates didn't work out. April 1st and April 2nd are the race dates, and my daughter has a competition. My wife said it's only a local competition, um, so just go and you'll be fine. You'll be helping out your department. And I love my wife for saying that. Thank you, Liz, for saying that. But I remember being that kid racing BMX, or playing football and looking up at the stands, and my parents weren't there. I understood why they weren't there, that they were busy working, that it was a busy season at their businesses. I get it. But boy, did I want them to be there. And I don't want to be that dad that isn't there for their kids if I can control it. It's one thing if I can't make it and my daughter knows that I have a big case I'm working or I have to be at work. That's different than, sorry, I can't be there because I have to run a race in Vegas. So those are not tough decisions for me. Those are easy decisions. Those are decisions that I'm going to make 100 out of 100 times. It's going to be a decision that's leaning towards my family. Now, with that said, if it wasn't a race, if it was something like it's a promotional exam, my daughter's gymnastics meet happens to be on a day where it's a very important promotional exam. I think my family will understand that the reason why I have to miss it, because it's an opportunity that comes very infrequently, and I need to take that so that our family would benefit later. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, maybe not a lot of you, but some of you might be thinking, there's nothing I would miss my kids' game for. And that's very admirable. But I also think that's thinking very narrowly. If you're watching on YouTube, you see my hands are kind of closed in a circle. As you mature in your profession and in life, you kind of look at things at a higher elevation, right? We talk about that 30,000-foot view. You want a broader perspective because you don't want you don't necessarily want to just be satisfied with the immediate gratification. You want to set yourself up to know what's going to happen after that immediate gratification. Um, if you follow on Instagram, my son bought one of those little nitro atomic gummy bear. It's the hottest gummy bear. It's a challenge on TikTok or whatever, and they saw it, and They had me take a bite. It's got 900 million Scoville units. I'm sorry, 9 million Scoville units. That's 900 times hotter than a jalapeno pepper. I took a bite of the head of the gummy bear and my mouth was on fire. And here I am, not thinking. I'm thinking the first thing I want to do is drink milk and have some ice cream. Well, I'm lactose intolerant. But, had I thought a little bit ahead, I would have said, oh, I'll have some bread. I'll have some crackers with it. I'll have something to absorb that lactose. But I didn't. I was only focused on relieving that heat that was in my mouth. So that's what I'm talking about. You can't think so short sighted that the immediate gratification outweighs the gratification that you can get at the end, which a lot of times is a lot better than the immediate gratification you're getting. Because boy, I'll tell you, I paid for that later. I know, TMI. But I think that's just the kind of generation we're in right now, aren't we? I mean, we're in a little bit of a situation where um, we're everything's instant gratification, right? We have what Amazon Prime now. It used to be you ordered something, you'd wait for that piece of mail to get to the mail order room for takes about 3 to 7 days. They get the order, they take about another week to fulfill that order, and then it takes another week to get to your house. That's how I grew up. But now you have overnight delivery, you have same day delivery, you have Amazon Now. And the other day, my brother-in-law had some ink delivered to his house at like 5 in the morning. It's just mind-boggling. We're grooming ourselves for this instant gratification, right? Disneyland, we have lightning passes. We have the fast pass lane now on freeways. It's everything is so rapid, and that's how our minds conditioned. But in reality, we should be slowing down. We should be kind of taking a look back and step back, looking at things from a higher elevation. No, this young man, I hope he made a decision that he can live with, because this job is not an easy job to get into, number one, and it's not an easy job to get to once you get hired, and it's not an easy job to sustain. So I really hope this guy doesn't make a decision he regrets. So when it comes to tough decisions, you pray about it. You meditate on it, and hopefully the answer comes to you. For me, there was nothing else I wanted to do in my life from a very, very young age. From as young as I could pin a plastic sheriff's badge on me and put on that crazy plastic holster with a cap gun, I wanted to be the cop when it became the Cops and Robbers. I always wanted to be a cop. I always thought the job was noble. I always thought they did a job that was respectable, and I wanted to be that guy. And my wife married me because I had those qualities, and my family's just been groomed to know that we're a cop family. We're a police family. They know that they do things that other kids in other families don't do. Like when we sit down at dinner and when we go out, they know which seat's going to be mine. They know that I'm not going to carry anything in my gun hand. They're just all aware of that, and they know I have certain expectations of discipline and integrity in our family. Case in point, my son today. My older boy, my 14-year-old boy, and we kind of butt heads. Why? Well, he was me when I was his age. He's the reincarnation of me, and we butt heads quite a bit. The difference is, I hated my dad because he gave me a reason to. He was absent. He went missing for months at a time. He abused drugs, and he abused my mom. And he abused me. He used to beat me with a belt until I broke blood. I hated him. But at the same time, I still admired and loved the guy. Right? And it's just one of those weird things. And that's another point. Sorry, I'm going to have a squirrel moment. But in all the years I've ever done child abuse investigations, what's funny is the young children, as bad as their parents may have abused them, they love them still. You ask them, do you love them? Yeah, they love them. They have that unconditional love, and that's something that's unique to parents. It's just mind-boggling. But going back to my original point, I haven't given my son those reasons, and I'll flat out tell him. I said, hey, you know what kind of relationship I had with my dad, and I had every excuse to hate the guy, yet I still respected him for what he did. And I know he came from worse circumstances. But what excuse have I given you to hate me? right? And sure enough, he says, I don't hate you. I was just mad. I said, well, what did I do to deserve that behavior from you? And then he understands what he did wrong. And there's some lessons there, and take away his phone, take away his keyboard. And, he comes around, and it's amazing how fast he apologizes. But that's just the sort of parent I am. I know there's consequences to your actions. And my kids expect that if they do something that's going to disappoint me, there's going to be some consequences that come with it. And that's an expectation they have. So my advice to you, if you're a cop and one day want to have a family and a wife, don't worry, it's going to happen. There's lots of cop families that have very successful families. You'll figure it out, especially if it's in your heart. If it's in your heart to have a successful marriage and a successful family, it will happen. There'll be obstacles along the way. There'll be heartache. There'll be bumps. Those are what we call trials and tribulations. And what happens when you overcome those trials and tribulations? You develop character. Character is forged in those challenging moments. And consider it a blessing when you get to those challenging moments. Because as I see couples fighting and making up, I see couples getting stronger. When I see couples struggling financially, and the husband and wife are united to get through it and make adjustments to get to the other end, and they overcome it, I see stronger couples. When I see fathers and their children going into some conflict and they resolve it, I see a more loving relationship between their father and children. So relish those challenging moments, because character is made in those moments, and character is probably a defining characteristic for every person. So with that said, that ends this episode of the 911 Strong podcast. If you liked this episode, please tell your friends about the 911 Strong podcast. We're a top 200 podcast in the United States and in countries like Canada, and in territories like Puerto Rico, Costa Rica. And most recently, we're in Cyprus and Estonia in Europe. Wow, that's crazy. So thank you for continuing to listen to us, but we need to get in that top 100 spot. Why? Because the better we do, the more we can do for you. The show can't last forever, and it only lasts because of your support. So, if things are kind of stalemating, or our sponsors stalemate, and if we're not getting sponsors, it's going to be hard to pay for the show to go up. So thank you for those who have supported us since day one. Thank you for all you new supporters. And we just want you guys to spread the word. Let them know we're here. Okay. All right. Until next time, we'll catch you guys later on the 911 Strong podcast. Bye-bye.